Countess Paula, Social Pride, Awakening of Consciousness, and Inner Reconstruction. The testimony of the Spirit Countess Paula, presented in the second part of Heaven and Hell, offers a profound reflection on the impact of social pride, the illusions of status, and the identity constructed from appearances. Her account clearly shows that death does not instantly eliminate the psychological conditioning formed in life, but reveals it more sharply to consciousness. Countess Paula manifests herself while maintaining full intellectual lucidity and awareness of her identity, yet deeply shaken upon realizing that the titles, privileges, and social distinctions that defined her earthly existence hold no real value in the spiritual realm. This shock is not external punishment, but a direct consequence of the confrontation between the image she cultivated of herself and the essential reality of being. Modern depth psychology helps to understand this state. When personal identity is excessively supported by social roles, external recognition, or symbolic power, the loss of these references causes an inner crisis. On the spiritual plane, where social masks do not exist, consciousness is forced to confront what it truly is without the filters of position or prestige. Spiritism clarifies that the suffering of Countess Paula does not arise from acts of deliberate malice, but from pride, vanity, and false superiority that guided much of her choices. Moral pain arises when consciousness realizes that it has lived more to sustain an image than to develop lasting internal values. Modern science reinforces this reading by showing that attachment to social identity is one of the main sources of psychological suffering in processes of loss. When the sense of personal value depends on external factors, the disruption of these factors generates emptiness and disorientation. On a spiritual level, this rupture is total, as only the moral content of consciousness remains. Another striking point of the testimony is the beginning of inner awakening. Countess Paula is neither in revolt nor in absolute denial. She suffers, but she begins to understand that her current condition is a natural consequence of choices based on appearance, pride, and social comparison. This recognition, although painful, represents the first real step towards transformation. Spiritism shows with this account that spiritual suffering has an educational function. It does not humiliate, but reveals. It does not destroy, but invites inner reconstruction. As consciousness abandons illusions and accepts learning, suffering loses intensity and opens space for moral progress. The experience of Countess Paula also teaches that the true value of a human being is not in titles, wealth, or position, but in the intimate quality of their feelings, thoughts, and attitudes. Everything external is lost with death. Only what has been integrated into consciousness remains. This testimony is especially relevant in a society still strongly oriented by status, image, and social validation. It invites us to reflect on where we are placing our sense of identity and personal value. Building oneself from what one has or from what one appears to be is always fragile. Building oneself from what one is, morally, is enduring. Countess Paula teaches us that true nobility is not social but moral, and that, even when awakening occurs painfully, it is never in vain. There is always a way to learn, detach from illusions, and rebuild consciousness on more truthful foundations. If this testimony has helped you reflect on pride, identity, and essential values, like, share, and leave your comment. Your participation helps this message reach more people.